Hi guys, we have another read aloud, and this one is called Worm's Wagon. Letter W. We have our cover, back cover, and we have our spine. We have our title, Worm's Wagon, and our author is by Samantha Berger, and our pictures are by Matt Phillips. Let's see. Worm's Wagon. One day, Worm went to the woods to gather walnuts. He brought his wagon with him. We have Worm went woods, walnuts, wagon. I'll start with the letter W. On his way home, Worm saw a woodpecker whistling in a weeping willow. Woodpecker asked Worm for a ride. We have Worm, way, woodpecker, whistling, weeping willow. Worm wiggled along, pulling Woodpecker into his wagon. Soon they came upon Weasel, eating watermelon. Weasel asked Worm for a ride. Worm wiggled, Woodpecker, wagon, Weasel, watermelon. Worm wiggled along, pulling Woodpecker and Weasel in his wagon. Before long, they bumped into Wombat wearing her new wig. Wombat asked Worm for a ride. We have Worm, wiggled, Woodpecker, Weasel, wagon, Wombat, wig, wearing, Worm. Worm wiggled along, pulling Woodpecker, Weasel, and Wombat in his wagon. Next, they met Wolf on his way to work. Wolf asked Worm for a ride. That's a lot of people on a wagon, isn't it? We have Worm, wiggled, Woodpecker, Weasel, Wombat, wagon, Wolf. Worm wiggled along, pulling Woodpecker, Weasel, Wombat, and Wolf in his wagon. Soon they saw Walrus winking and waving. Walrus asked Worm for a ride. Worm wiggled, Woodpecker, Weasel, Wombat, Wolf, wagon, Walrus winking, waving. It looks like Worm is struggling a little bit to carry all these animals. Let's see what happens. Worm wiggled along, pulling Woodpecker, Weasel, Wombat, Wolf, and Walrus in his wagon. Up ahead, they saw Whale playing in the water. Whale asked Worm for a ride. Y'all see his face? They must be heavy. Worm wiggled with all his might, trying to pull Woodpecker, Weasel, Wombat, Wolf, Walrus, and Whale in the wagon. But the wagon would not move. The wheels started to wobble. Now that's a pretty heavy wagon. Worm wiggled, Woodpecker, Weasel, Wombat, Wolf, Walrus, Whale, wagon. Wheels wobble. All start with the letter W. Guess what happens? Look at the picture. Wham! The weight was too much for the wagon. It crashed to the ground. Oh no, my wagon! Worm wailed. How do you think he feels? Wham, weight, wagon, Worm wailed. Let's see, what do you think his friends are gonna do? Don't worry, Worm, the animal said. Worm's friends worked on the wagon all afternoon. And we have Worm, worked, wagon. Isn't that nice of his friends? Now they're all working together to build the wagon again. When the wagon was fixed, Worm wiggled into it. Then Wombat, Weasel, Wolf, Woodpecker, Walrus, and Whale pulled Worm all the way home. And weary Worm had a wonderful ride. Now, how many things can you find that begin with the letter W? Remember, the W starts with the W sound. So we have whale, woodpecker, a bird, but this one is called a bird woodhouse, worm, we have wolf, and in his mouth he has a whistle. They have walnuts, wagon, they have water, and that's about it. Let's see. And now let's say our W cheer. W is for warm and wagon to pull. W is for wig, whale, wave, and wool. W is for watermelon, juicy and sweet. W is for walnuts, waffles, and wheats. Hooray for W, big and small, the wildest, wackiest letter of all. And that's our W cheer. All right, guys, I'll see you next time.